Okay, everybody, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are watching. Welcome to session 7 of Our Children, Their Safety. Today, Nelly and I are diving into a very, very interesting topic. A topic that even ourselves as adults, we don't like it. Even though it's necessary, sometimes we run away from it. So it's very, very important that we talk about it today, especially when it concerns our children. Because guess what? The lives of our children, their well being, everything depends on what we're going to talk about today. And what is it? It's all about boundaries. Is it necessary to set boundaries for our children? Is it necessary? The answer is a fat yes. But we all know that it's very important to set boundaries for our children. But surprisingly, we don't even know, some of us don't even know what boundaries is all about and how to set the boundaries. Why is it even important to set those boundaries and how to set effective boundaries? So that's why me and Nelly we're going to be diving in today. So for anybody who doesn't know me, my name is Peggy Barre. I am a survivor empowerment coach. I'm founder of Arise and Thrive Academy. I'm also a domestic abuse practitioner. So I will pass you to Nelly to introduce herself while I do my sharing.
Hello, everyone. Call me Nelly Kwasumi. I'm a social worker, a transformational life coach, and one of the directors for Hand in Hand Community CIC, and the founder of Clarify Thy Uniqueness. So, we are here today having these sessions. Our children, their safety. Yes, our children are our everything, as parents commonly describe their children, that my children are my everything. However, routines, boundaries, we have come across that a lot of parents struggle with their children because there are no routines, there are no boundaries in place. Or there can be routines and boundaries in place. However, parents are not being consistent with those boundaries because parents say, oh, the child is pushing, the children are pushing, and sometimes I just give up. So today, let's dive deep into what boundaries are all about. And if you don't have a boundary in place, that's not an issue because today we will explore how you can implement boundaries. There's always a starting point as far as parenting is concerned because this is a school that we learn every single day, provided you develop an open mind. But if you just want to be rigid, to say, no, I am a good parent and I don't need to learn anything, well, unfortunately, you are failing yourself as a parent, and that is having an impact on your children. So, Peggy and myself are here. We are learning, so please, if you have any ideas, your experience, share with us because what we have gone through or the strategies we are using might not be the best. We are open to learn from you. So thank you so much and put your comments so we can talk about it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nelly, for that. I think, like we were saying, the first initial point to begin with is first of all to define boundaries. What is boundaries? Because many people may have different interpretation or different meaning around boundaries. For me, I think of boundaries like a barrier. A barrier where you put that barrier, you can cross over that barrier, you can cross under the barrier, you can even just remove the barrier and just cross through. So it's all about setting barriers and how, again, these barriers are not the physical barriers, as we may know. Boundaries can be different, it can be different form. We have different forms of boundaries, and then we know that it is very, very important because boundary is important and it's a fundamental part of parenting. you know I don't know, let me use the biblical passion which says, train up a child in a way they will grow, and when they grow old they will not depart from it. It's all about setting boundaries. Like, what do we set for those children when they are very, very early in their age? What do we set for them? What are the routines that they know? And the most important thing again is that, Nelly, it's not about setting these boundaries for our children and then not implementing those boundaries, or we ourselves not 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 how compliant with those boundaries. You get what I mean? Because setting boundaries is one way of saying to the children that, okay, these boundaries that I'm setting, also going to make sure that I implement those boundaries, because in that way the children are learning from us. So sometimes we fail to actually have those effective boundaries because we set the boundaries for our children, but yet we violate the boundaries. It's just like saying to my son that, hey, I don't want to see any, sorry for always coming about dirty dishes. I don't want to see any dirty dishes in the sink. But yet, me as a mom, when I finish eating, I leave a dirty dish in that sink. So you see, the same boundaries that I'm setting for the kids, I'm breaking that same boundaries. And then we can start asking, why is it that kids are not respecting those boundaries? Because maybe we're breaking them as well. So again, these are things that we have to talk about, because like you say, boundaries is just about understanding what boundaries is. I don't know, Nelly, do you want to talk a little bit or share a little bit light on what boundaries is all about before we start diving deep?
Yeah, so boundaries, like you say, people have different interpretations of what boundaries are. But like Peggy has said and said it really well from the biblical point of view, boundaries help not just ourselves, but our children. And we need to, when we put boundaries, we help ourselves and our children to have some structure. And we think it is just the physical aspect of it, but it goes more than sorry, it goes more than the physical aspect of boundaries, because children learn a lot. And I don't want to
Yeah.
go into that straight away because we'll come to that. However, I just want to differentiate that there's a difference between boundaries and control,
Mm-hmm.
because sometimes parents use control as a form of boundary, but there's a clear difference. So if when you use boundaries, you are using it in a constructive way to promote independence and growth for your child. However, when you use control or when you use boundary as a form of control, it means you are projecting your fears onto that child. And most of the time, especially from African parents, we just say, do this, and it's a full stop. But as we will explore, this will be now how to get children setting up boundaries. So we'll get into that later on. So, yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think without further ado, we're just going to go straight into why are boundaries important? Why is it necessary? Like I say, setting boundaries is also important for ourselves as parents, because again, some of us, maybe we grew up in if we had if somebody grows up in a household where boundaries are not set, when things are just done in life as a whole, boundaries are about orderliness. It is important to have an order in anything that we do, whether in our businesses, when you go to work, there are routines, there are order, there's a structure. It's all about having structure. So having that structure in our lives is very important, as well as having that structure for our children is very, very important, because it doesn't just make life easier for it doesn't just kind of it creates good communication and good connection between you and your children. It makes life easier because the kids, they will already know that, hey, these things has to be done this way and that way. So we are going to be talking about the importance of setting boundaries, and the first is about safety and security. It is very important to set boundaries for our children, because it allows our children it kind of define a safe space and a safe environment for our children to explore, and also for them to learn. And it also gives them a sense of order, which I already say, an order and on in an uncertain world. To be honest with you, the world we live today, you can see that sometimes things are just chaos. Things are chaotic, put it in that way. So children who lives a home, or who lives in a home where there is orderliness, where boundaries are set, you will see that those children will feel safer. They'll feel safe in that home. Because when they go out there and things are just haywire, once they step into their home, they step into a place of safety. They step into a place of orderliness. And you can see it calms them down, which is very, very important. So, yes, so that safety and security is very, very important. It's a very, very important aspect of setting boundaries. Nelly, I don't know what I want to add on that before we move to the next point, why it's important.
Yeah, so around safety, it's not just around the physical safety, it's around emotional safety as well, because when children learn that the home is a safe place, because whatever chaotic thing is going out in the world or outside the house, the children will know that there's a boundary, there's a safe haven at home.
Mhm.
So that is the emotional safety that children have. And they know that if they go home, parents will always welcome them and make to feel that they are worthy, they are needed, they are valued at home. So those are some of the safety aspects of setting boundaries as compared to if there's no boundary in place, the child doesn't know whether they are coming or they are going. If they get home, will it be the things at home crashing? If they go home, are they do they even know what they're going home and to do?
Mhm.
So those that does not give the child or the children safety at home, because they just do things that are not that there's no structure in place.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. The second important point of why boundaries are essential, it creates structure and expectation. And this one is a massive one as parents. Children, where there is no structure, children will drift away. Children will do whatever thing they're doing. And sometimes, to be honest with you, sometimes they're even going to turn around and hold blame on you. They'll say, but well, you didn't tell me. Well, I didn't know that this had to be done and this had to be done. So again, they'll hold us accountable for the fact that we have not set something for them, and that is why they are doing whatever thing they want to do. So when we create boundaries, when we set boundaries for our children, it helps them to thrive, especially because they know what is expected of them. A child who knows that at this time I need to be in bed, at this time I need to be awake, I need to, by this time I need to be at the bus stop. By this, so they know their routine. It's all about that routine and that structure. But if we don't teach these children, or we don't tell them this, set these boundaries for them, they just do whatever thing they do. And then at the end of the day, they will turn and blame us or say, well, they're doing it because we haven't said anything for them. So boundaries offer a clear guidelines, as well as it helped them to develop a sense of structure and predictability. Again, children these days, they act like, sometimes I call my children like they act like robots. If you don't tell them that they have to do something, they can, in fact, they can step over that thing and they'll say, well, I didn't know that I had to do it. So again, it's that sort of thing that you need to tell them that, hey, common sense says when you step on this thing, or if you find this thing, pick it up. So which is a bit challenging for our world today as parents, with this technology and all of that. I think it's kind of, it's preoccupying the minds of our children in such a way that we need to be like back to back, telling them and reminding them that, hey, this thing has to be done, this is how it should be done, and all of that. But then do that in love, not with intimidation, not about making them to be afraid or scared, but let them understand that, hey, as you're growing up, these are routines that will be that are very, very important. You're going to take them with you as you navigate into your adulthood. These are life skills that are very, very important. So yeah, Nelly, I don't know whether I wanted to add something again on that structure and expectations.
Yeah, I think for the structure and expectations, it is. We will explore that a lot more when we come down to setting the boundaries, because children, I mean, if we are setting boundaries with our children, we need to get them involved because their voice is very important. And like Peggy said at the very beginning, we are not just setting boundaries for our children or with our children. We need to be the role models. We need to be the examples of what our children or what we expect of our children. So if we say bedtime is 10:30 or 10 o'clock, we ourselves need to be in bed at that time so our children know. Or we make sure that we remind our children to get in bed for the time that they need to get in bed for. And to make them understand, because children will do things when they understand the why. And this is the reason we explain that, for instance, there's a lot of research around sleep. Explain to children that they need at least 8 hours of good sleep so that they can function well, because it helps them with their mood. It helps them to have a lot of energy to do the things that they like doing, to explore. So if you
Mhm.
just say you need to be in bed for 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock, the child in their little minds are thinking, but why? I've got this to play with. I've got that. I've got that. I'll be missing out. But then if you explain it to the child will be like, oh, I want to grow big and strong. So they
Mhm.
will easily take up on that. And that's a way to get children involved. Yeah, so that's a good point.
Yeah, absolutely. So, point number three, we're talking about why boundaries are important. Boundaries for our children are important for self control and decision making. And like we say, we are raising up children not just to end at home. We're raising children that they're going to face the society. They're going to go into work. They're going to go into organizations that have got routine, And if we don't start teaching them how to set this routine and how to follow the routine, they're going to find it difficult when they go out there in the world of work, or when they go out there in maybe associating with others. They're going to struggle. And sometimes, again, like I said, they'll turn and blame us that, well, it's because my parents didn't set any boundaries. I was just doing anything that I wanted to do and I got away with it. So it's very important to set that boundaries because it enables self-control and decision making, because consistent boundaries help our children to develop better self-regulation and decision making. It helps them with skills like preparing them for adult world, as just like I say. Children who grow up in an environment where boundaries are set, you see that those children performs well. I'm not there is research. I didn't lay hands on that statistics, but you see that those children will perform. They're well organized and they adapt so easily. They adapt so easily when they go out there in the society, you know, and they don't feel like their resilience is more better than any child who actually lives in an environment where there are no boundaries. So it is also important, very very important, that we set these boundaries, because hey, if we love our children, we are preparing them 10 years, 20 years down the line, so that once they move on into adulthood, we know that we can be confident that they can adapt so easily. I don't know whether Nelly wanted to add something about on self control and decision making.
Yeah. Boundaries really help children, like Peggy has said, to emotionally regulate themselves.
Mm,
Because if there are no boundaries, a child would want instant gratification, which means if they want something, say now we are on this session, and if any of our children did not, or we did not try to put boundaries in place, and they come in, probably they want food, they would disregard that we are having this session, and they'll just come and say, Mom, I want food now. Okay, this will reveal a pattern that this child has been experiencing or going through since they were born, because they knew that if they ask for anything, they will get it straight away. So that is the instant gratification. But once you start teaching the child to hold on, that's delayed gratification. It's not everything that you ask and you get it straight away. And in our society today, unfortunately, this is massive. This is massive, especially in my role as a social worker. I've seen so many cases. Like there was a case that I was working on. This girl was 14 years old. She had not been in school for 2 years. And when her mother, because children's services were involved, when her mother started putting boundaries in place, following the plan that children's services came up with, that this child, when she's on a phone for a number of hours, the mother needs to ask her to get off the phone. If the child doesn't get off the phone, the mother needs to disconnect the internet. And it was so, so hard for this girl to cope because when that happened and the mom put off the internet, she will break things at home, scatter things, and she won't even care. When you ask her, you say her mom has put off the internet because her
Mm.
whole life was on the internet. And the reason why that plan was put in place was because she was exposing herself. She was very vulnerable online and she was being exploited online. So
Mm.
those are some of the impacts because the child from a very young age, she was not having any boundaries in place. And when I spoke with the mom, she acknowledged it and she was like, "Oh, I'm a failure." And this, I said, "No, you're not a failure. You are only a failure if from now you know what to do and you don't take that step forward." So, yes, emotional regulation is really important. And especially when we put boundaries in place, we can start putting boundaries in place from when a child is a week old. For instance, if you are breastfeeding a child and the child bites the nipple, you need to put boundaries in place. Sometimes you might take out the nipple from the child's mouth and just hold on for a bit so that the child knows that, oh, they don't have the food anymore. What has happened?
Mm.
And then over time, the child will associate that the nipple gets taken off their mouth when they bite the nipple. So in a
Yeah.
way, that's a boundary that you are setting. It doesn't mean that you wait until a child is 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years before you start setting boundaries. So it's to start small. But if you have not had any boundaries in place, there's always a starting point. You will hear how you can start that later on. Yeah.
Yeah. That is so true, Nelly. And I also wanted to share one a, experience that one of my clients shared with me. And again, this when you talked about it, you talked about the parents start blaming themselves, like it's my fault again. So this is one of the massive things that we need to have to come to a point where yes, we acknowledge the fact that maybe we did not set it earlier on in life, but there is still an opportunity for us to set those boundaries, even though it's going to be harder to implement those boundaries. But if we keep that consistency, definitely something is going to change. This one of my customer client, what she said is that her children had the tendency to just barge into her room without knocking the door, right? And at first she just let it, she was like, it's okay for you guys to come in and all of that, trying to make the children feel comfortable that they can go into any room in the house. But then on this fateful day, this same child barged into this room and the mom was dressing. So can you imagine? The mom was there screaming, lock the door, lock the door. But the child knows, and the child will be surprised. The child was surprised, you know. But because they've been doing it over and over and it was okay. And then now, because of this, it feels like what is wrong, and they're surprised. So these are the little things that again we do it sometimes and we feel like, oh no, maybe it doesn't matter. We don't know that one day that is going to matter, because maybe she didn't know that a day is going to come when that child is going to batch into that room when she is dressing, you know and what impression does that tell the child? That embarrassment, on the child's face, and it can kind of even create some kind of trauma trauma for the child. And then you as the mom, you're thinking, oh my God, emotionally you're thinking, oh my God, my child has seen, my naked and all of that. And again, so this is why we need to, like you say, we need to start setting these boundaries early enough, early, earlier in their life, so that they know that these things, this is what you can do and this is what you can't do, and give them the reasons why, which we're going to look at it later. So another important reason why we need to set boundaries for our children is because it creates independence and responsibility. Very, very important, because we live in a world today where we feel like we're so protective of our children in such a way that we are kind of a way. I think we spoke about this in one of the sessions where we talk about giving children that independence for them to actually fail and make mistake or learn from the mistake. So giving them certain boundaries is also letting those children know that although I'm setting these boundaries for you, it's not a quick fix. There's some boundaries that you're going to do and fail. There are some certain things that you're going to do and make mistake, but the important thing is that you have learned from it. You have learned from it. It's just like telling your certain boundaries, as like we spoke about it the few weeks ago, where like I set boundaries that I'm not going to be dropping my son in school. That was in a way was a boundary. You need to start learning how to catch the bus to school. Oh, mom, it's two buses away. Yes, I know. It's two buses away. If other kids are catching those two buses to go to school, why not you? The only reason why you're thinking that maybe the two buses is because you've seen mom has got a car. Some other parents haven't got cars, but their kids are catching buses to school, two buses to school. So, oh my dear, you're gonna be catching a bus, catch bus one, bus two, and even sometimes bus three if they miss the bus. So that is a way, it was a boundary. Are there days that it's gonna go smoothly? No. There's some days that he's gonna miss the bus and then he's gonna go to school late and all of that, or some days where he wakes up very late, or and then he misses his bus and all of that. That in a way is a lesson that he is learning. And it's to let him know that wherever you go, you need to make sure that you it's not about you need to create a routine and make sure that you stick to that routine for you not to go too late, maybe whether late to work, late to school and all of that. So again, it's about helping them to create that independence and responsibility, because now they've got to be responsible for their time. What time are they setting to wake up? We spoke about it a few weeks ago, where they'll tell Alexa, Alexa, wake me up at 7, and then Alexa go ding 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 ding, and they're cursing Alexa, Alexa, shoo shoo shoo. So yes, they can curse Alexa as the one, but at the end of the day, they will still wake up and go to that school. So this is about teaching them, because they learn with that, they will learn to operate within that limit, and it will help them to become more independent and more responsible. So I don't know whether Nelly, you want to add something on that aspect as well.
Yeah, developing that independence is crucial, and we talked about this like you rightly said. So parents, in my experience, some of the parents that I've worked with, they are overprotective of their children, and in a way they are projecting their insecurities onto the child. So
Mm-hmm.
they don't want the child to do this, they don't want the child to do that, because if there are cases where children's services are already involved, they'll say, no, I don't want the case to get worse. Like there was
Mm.
an example that I shared about a 12-year-old, no, a 10-year-old boy who enjoyed food tech in school. And he will come back with the recipes and things like that. And in school, the report from school is he is very confident in cooking whatever that cooking on the day, and he will
Mm.
help other children. But then when he gets home, mom is so scared. Mom doesn't allow him to to go into the kitchen, even to boil the kettle. Mom will do it
Mm.
for him. So when I asked mom why that was the case, mom was saying that she wants a diagnosis of ADHD and things like that. But the, about 5 times, but the GP has sent it all the times that the child doesn't meet the criteria for ADHD. Anyway, I suggested to mom, okay, if your son comes with the recipes, what you can do is what you can do is be with him in the kitchen while he does the preparation. Be there just supervising when he's using like the knife, when he has prepared everything and it's time to put whether in the oven or on the hob. That is now your responsibility to put on the oven or the hob, and then take the, if it's in the oven, take the baking tray and put it in the oven. So
Mhm.
you are, that's joint working, and the child is doing what they enjoy doing. And I was so pleased that over time that was what the mom was doing, and it gave them activities to be doing together. So in a way that is putting boundaries, because children like, I mean, children like to explore. But then
Mm.
when we want to overprotect children, children learn that they don't have to do this. They are allowed to do that. And then it impacts on their creativity. So let our children explore, give them the opportunity to explore, but then instill the boundaries in them that, okay, when they do this, they know the consequences. Though sometimes you might explain the consequences, but if they don't try it, they will continue to do what they want when it's not what the parent wants. For instance, they say the hope. If you tell a child, be careful, that hope is hot, you will burn yourself. The child doesn't understand what it means by burning themselves. So they'll keep on be looking. Are you looking at me? No, they'll try to touch, try to touch. And eventually, if they touch the hope, no one will tell them not to go there again, because when they just see the hope, they'll run away because they know that, oh, there's danger out there. So that is what boundaries does, and give the child the freedom to be independent, to explore. So when they experience, when they get that first-hand experience, they will know that, oh, this is what mom, dad was saying, that don't go there. Yeah. So independence is crucial, because the boundaries doesn't only end when children are growing up or benefit the children or the parents. It takes the children to their adulthood, and it
Mhm.
also helps the parents, because when there are no parents, when there are no boundaries, there's a likelihood for parents to experience burnout, because the
Yeah.
parent will always be on their toes, that I want to watch him or her do this, that. So instead of the time that the parent could have been having a rest or doing something else, they will be putting on supervising or looking after the other child or doing things for the children. But then if you allow the child to be independent, it's not massive independence like live here and walk 2 miles. No, it's not that kind of independence. But small ones around the house, then the child will know that this is what they are doing. They'll feel very proud of themselves. That, for instance, I can pick my clothes, I make my choice of clothes that I want to wear, my shoe, my hairstyle, and things like that. And then the parent will be contented in their own area, though they'll still be supervising the child, but the intensity will not be as much as if there was no boundary at all, or if the boundary was today there's a boundary, tomorrow there's no boundary. If there's inconsistency, it leads the children to be confused and do not know what to do and what not to do. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's so true. That's really true. And another important reason why boundaries should be set is it creates or foster healthy relationship, and this is a massive one for all our children, no matter the sex. Because if we don't start teaching our children, especially our girl children, to set boundaries in them in their lives, you know, they will struggle as they move on, because in a world of peer pressure, when they are amongst their peers, where maybe they're saying that let's go do it, let's go explore this, let's go explore that. If they don't know, if they cannot set boundaries, they just go with the wind. But when they know how to set boundaries, they can be able to say, no, I do not agree with this. I do not agree with what you guys are suggesting. So again, it's about setting boundaries even with their own bodies. What is it that somebody can touch or not touch? So they need to set boundaries. Again, it start with the mind, setting boundaries with their emotions, what is in their mind, setting boundaries around their body, what needs to be, and then setting boundaries around even the network of friends that they are associating with. Because it's about telling our children that there are certain category of people that you shouldn't even associate with. If you see this person doing X or Y, and you know that that is not right, then you don't even have to start any relationship with that person. You don't even need to be around that person. That is a way, is a boundary that we are teaching them to set that boundary early enough, so that, because we're not going to be with them all the time. These kids, when they leave the house and go, we don't even know where they're going. We don't even know who they're associating with. We don't even know what they are doing. It is only their boundaries that can be able to actually, in a way, preserve and protect them while they are out there, you know. So it is very, very important, because boundary will foster respect for others' limit as well. And again, they may have friends that have got boundaries. And if our children do not know how to set boundaries, they may encroach in other people's boundaries. And that is why it will create problem, amongst those friendship. So again, if we don't set boundaries promote healthy relationship, and it also creates empathy, so that if we know that maybe we've encroached into somebody's boundary, that is where we show empathy, where we genuinely say, where we are sorry, and and be able to, because all of this thing kind of keeps that bond, it keeps that relationship going. Without this, relationship will fall apart so easily. I don't know what I want to add something on that, Nelly.
Yeah, yeah, relationship. So, with boundaries, especially healthy boundaries, it promotes that relationship with the parents and the children and the siblings themselves. And also, if a child has that sense of worth, when they are out with their friends and we know there's peer pressure, the child can confidently say, no, I'm not doing that, because they have their own morals and they stick to their morals. Sometimes them, I mean, like you talked of empathy might come in as well, because the child might say, okay, you want to do that, you can do it, but I'm standing and just observing. It's because that child has a sense of independence. They have their voice. They can use their voice. They know what they want, what they do not want.
Yeah.
And that is from independence. So when they are with friends, they will know how to manage that relationship. And also, they can easily pick up on some of the characteristics of their friends. Like, let me just give this example with my son. So he 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 came once and he was really upset in the morning. And I was like, okay, you need to go to school. So just as I got into my bedroom, he sent me a text that, oh, mom, I'm really heartbroken, because my girlfriend just split up with me. My girlfriend just broke up with me. And straight away, I went into his bedroom and I was like, I mean, the mommy talk, the mother talk. So I just talked to him and I was like, okay, you get ready, go to school, come back. So when he went to school and came back, I mean, he was going to school very grumpy, but I was like, yeah, it's good to go to school. When he came back, he was so, so happy. And he was like, oh, mom, I'm so happy that I went to school. I was like, oh, what changed? Did you make up? It was like, no. And then I was like, so it was then I wanted to explore what was going on. And he said, mom, the girl is very, he used some term that she is very clingy. And I was like, oh, So I was like, what do you mean by she is very clingy? And he said, when I'm with my friends, she doesn't want me to be with my friends. But when she is with her friends, she wants him to be with her. So I was like, oh. And then he said, Mom, that's not good in a relationship. And I was like, yeah, it's not good. So, those are just small, small skills because I mean, I think he has his own boundaries and he is
Yeah,
able to identify certain characteristics in other people that to him it doesn't feel right because in a way it will impact on his level of empathy and their relationship. So
yeah,
yeah, I think we really need to be encouraging and promoting our children to be able to
absolutely.
set boundaries, and everything that we do we start with ourselves as the parents. let's
Yeah.
let's set the examples for ourselves and our children, and then they will at some point, not all the time, at some point, but at the back of their heads, they know, especially if we are consistent. I know you always talk of the dishes in the sink, but they know what to do because
Yeah,
sometimes they do it without anyone telling them. So they know. But it's that they choose when they want to do it. And again, to balance that is down to conversations and just explaining. Like for me, what I say about the dishes that are left in the sink is, especially now that it's hot, the rate of bacteria multiplies very quickly. And I don't want to fall sick, and I'm sure you don't want to fall sick as well. So it's having them conversations. Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. And I think sometimes it's just that they know what to do. It's just that they want to do it in their own time. But then we are very impatient to wait for that their time. So again, it's all about setting boundaries on our emotions that we need to say, you know what, let me calm down. Let me give them that time to do it when they are ready. Yeah. So another last but not the least point of boundaries, why it is important to set boundaries, is because boundaries reduce anxiety. It reduces anxiety not just for our children, it also reduces anxiety for us because knowing the rules will actually help our children to feel more secure, and which can reduce anxiety and it can build their ability to cope with the unknown. You know, so it our kids knows that, this is what I need to do. And sometimes, even if they know, it's good to even for them to even know the consequences, you know, because sometimes they will do something and say, oh, well, if I don't do it, I know maybe this is what is going to happen. You know, it's a good and bad. It's good in a way because at least they will not be panicking what is going to happen if that doesn't happen. But it's bad in a way because they're gonna get complacent with it. I say anyway, I'm not gonna do it, but I already know my punishment anyway. I already know what mom or dad is gonna do do anyway. So it makes them complacent, in doing that thing, and sometimes they cannot be bothered. But in a nutshell, it reduces the anxiety in such a way that it breaks down barrier between you and your children, because in a way everybody is functioning on the same page. Everybody knows that this is the routine, this is what needs to be done, and in that way, there is that fluency in communication. Anybody knows that maybe when they go to the kitchen and maybe they use this is what they have to do. They have to clean up, they have to do that. Or again, it makes things easier. I know it cannot be all the time because sometimes this kid would they have their mind of their own. They always say you can give birth to a child, you don't give birth to their heart. They have the mind of their own. There are times where they'll just deliberately say, you know what, they're not going to do it. But when that happens, it's based on us, it's left on us to say, let's guard our emotion. What I've been telling myself these days that I think it works is that when things like that happen, the first thing I'll call my name. I say, Peggy, do you love your life? Do you like your life? And the answer is always yes. And if the answer is yes, I was like, you know what? Then the next verse said, don't bother about that thing. Just leave it. In that way, it kind of makes me know that I don't want to be stressing over something that, how many times I'm going to be stressing on that thing. So it's about me protecting my own self, guarding my own self and my own emotions, because at the end of the day, you cannot kill yourself as a as a parent. So yeah, so do you want to add something on that, Nelly, on how it's very important because it reduces anxiety?
Yeah, I mean, I really like the question that you ask yourself because our emotions, we are emotional beings, and a
Mm-hmm.
lot of the times it's down to our emotions. And where are those emotions coming from? They're coming mostly from certain fears.
Yeah.
But then if you learn to control those emotions, then you will be able to manage the situation. And like you said, you like your life, so you don't have to. Okay, so I'll not talk much about that. I just want to I just want us to talk about the cultural and family values that influence boundaries.
Yeah.
So looking at our community, we are from the Afro-Caribbean community, and we have our culture is the collective collectivist. So we rely more on the family as opposed to the European system that is individuals. So we put boundaries in place, not regarding the individual, but the whole family. And we don't, it's good and it's bad because we take everyone as the same. We
Mm.
don't we don't value individual cases like people's how do they call that, uniqueness. We don't
Yeah.
consider individuals uniqueness, and then it impacts on the way we set those boundaries because we just want that, okay, because, and this is very common now because like our generation, the older generation, they'll say, this is the way I was parented. This is the way
Mm-hmm.
you will be parented. So they want to use the same boundaries to parent their children. And
Mm.
it leads to that struggle because it gets to a point where parents and children are fighting.
Yeah.
But then sometimes parents will say, I never fought with my parents. So that emotion comes in again. But then it's because the children's individual identity has not been taken into consideration, which this is one of the things that the collectivist culture brings in. Because
Mm-hmm.
okay, yeah. So yeah, if you have something to add on that one.
No, I think that really makes sense a lot, Nelly, because I think this is a thing, and this is where some of our families, well, some of our household get it wrong. Not because they haven't got the capability or the ability to set those boundaries. It's because they are confused whether which boundaries supersedes the other. Is it the boundaries that you set within your closer family or the boundaries that you set as a whole, as a collective? So these are the things that, again, and if we don't get this right, it confuses our children. It gets them so confused, you know, because again, we need to understand the fact that our children are growing in a society where it is completely different from where we came from. We're not saying that let us dish away all our cultural values, and then embrace. No, it's not about that. It's about making sure that what are the values that we're upholding in line with the values. Because again, a value is a value, a good value is a good value. A bad value is a bad value. So it's about, it doesn't matter where whatever we're upholding, is it working for us? Is it working for that child? Is very, very important. So this is why we need to make sure that we don't get our kids confused by setting clear boundaries for them. Let us keep complicated cultural concept and aspect aside. Some of those we can understand as parents, but some of those children are kids of today, they cannot understand. So if we can help them, do them a favor and break it, let us give them the digestive part, the little one that they can understand, but ensuring that we are preparing them for the war. we're preparing them for the future. What is it that we're instilling in them that when they go, they can carry that culture, they can carry that value with them into their lives and be proud of who they are and where they come from. So it is very, very important.
Yeah. Just
So,
just
yeah.
before you continue, I just want to give a shout out there to Priska for watching and also for Aisha. Nice to see you on, Aisha, and thanks so much. I think this is your first time watching. It's so nice that you are there. Thank you so much. Okay, yes, culture. They say your culture is your identity.
Mm,
Yes, culture is very important. But there are certain aspects, especially like we've talked about the collectivists, the individual aspect just dies down, which
mhm,
I think now there's a lot coming up, not just with the children who are out of our country, because even those who are within the countries that they were born, say in any African countries, the
mhm,
children now are now in a way retaliating or complaining, and some of the cultural aspects or the boundaries makes children to start living double-sided double lives.
mm,
So we know, or I will give an example of growing up in a Christian home, which this is
mhm,
very, very common with a lot of Christian homes. We see they describe some people as the pastor's child and things like that. And already the community has an expectation of
mhm,
that child, the behavior, forgetting that as a human being, we have some natural instincts. So they are like, as a pastor's child, you don't need to dress this way. You always have to be like holy and things like that. So that's a stereotype. And
mm,
that community boundary, because they'll consider that as community boundary, which
mhm,
that child, as an individual, they feel that they cannot express themselves of who they truly are. And then they have to pretend like when they are in front of their community, they are that holy, respectful child. But then when they are with their friends or somewhere else, you see the crazy side. And for me, it's worse because that child or the holy child has not really learned certain social skills. So when they find themselves in social environment, they are very awkward because they don't know their boundaries because they don't have any social boundaries. So then
mm.
they easily put themselves in very vulnerable positions. So those are some of the things that we need to consider as far as culture is concerned and boundaries are concerned.
That's so true. That is so true. The worst thing we can do to our children is help to make them, force them to live double life. Honestly, it really affects them. It affects them a lot. And that is why sometimes even the parents will be shocked. Oh my God, I didn't know my child could. It's because we have pushed them to live that double life. Why are we shocked? When we hear them, so yeah, we need to try and avoid that. Let us encourage our children to be able to explore, know who they are in themselves, and let us not over put some high expectations on them that when they don't fulfill that expectation, we are kind of like disappointed in them or shocked. No, we need to just encourage them. And it's all about letting them, what, all you need to do is try your best, do your best, explore who you are, know your values, and all of that. And again, as parents, if we ourselves do not know our values, how do we expect our children to know their values? So we need to start by setting those values amongst ourselves as parents. And some of these values, we can actually communicate these values to our kids so that they know that there are certain things that are called family values. Family values, again, is very, very important, where kids know that no matter what, this is what we stand by our values, our family values. We cannot go against our family values. It's healthy. These are healthy because it kind of guides everybody together. It kind of let everybody walk on that the same sync from the same song sheet, which makes it easier for everybody. So, we're going to now talk about how to set effective boundaries, because boundaries is not just about setting it. Trust me, If it is about setting boundaries, I can set boundaries for all you care. Is it not just about sitting down and writing the rules that from this, that you shall do this, do that? Talk about writing, I'll write it. Talk about setting it every day, I will set it. But is it consistent? Is it implemented? That is another question altogether. So again, it's not that we parents, we don't set boundaries. We set these boundaries every day. But the thing is that sometimes it seems as if these kids are even smarter than us. We will set them. If we don't break it ourselves, we will let the kids break it, and then we don't do anything. We don't follow up with it. And that's why you see gradually that boundary dies. So we're going to be talking about how to set effective boundaries. So the first point is we need that boundary, whatever boundary you're setting needs to be clear and consistent. Just like you mentioned, Nelly, sometimes we set boundaries, our kids don't even know why we set that boundary. Why are we setting the boundary? We don't explain it to them. And surprise, surprise, sometimes kids are even better at setting their own boundaries. Like saying, you know what, I'm not gonna do this. If I do this, this is my punishment. That is a way, it's a boundary that they are setting. And boundaries that are even facilitated by the children, the chances of that boundaries being implemented is even better. So again, we need to be clear and consistent. We need to let our children, they need to understand what is expected, that consistency in enforcing that boundaries, and also to ensure they remain meaningful. Because if those boundaries are not meaningful, they're just going to be waste. We'll be shouting at the top of our voice, hey, I told you not to do it. And the kids are laughing, that one, do you even implement it? And it make us weak. It make us look weak in front of our children as well, that we cannot implement what we've set before, for them. I don't know, Nelly, why you want to add
Yeah,
something on that?
children are very, very observant by nature.
Yeah.
Children are. You can say one thing now, and you might not even remember.
Mm-hmm.
And the next time you contradict yourself, the child will just be looking at you. They might not say anything, but in their head, they know, and they've already made their conclusion that, oh, look at that one. She's so confused, or he's so confused. He doesn't even remember what he said a few hours ago. So they are taking note. And that is where, as a parent, you give instructions, and already you are contradicting yourself. Just because the child does not bring that out to you or point it out to you that you said this before and now you are saying the opposite, it doesn't mean that the child is not understanding what you are saying. Because children
Mm-hmm.
are very smart, and every human being has the capacity to manipulate because they want the best for themselves. So too are children. So to set healthy boundaries, get your child, get your children involved. Explain the why, and which this is one of the things with us African parents. We just say, do this, without explaining the why. And without the child understanding the why, they will not really do it. They will not do it. So get our children involved. Why they need to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And if they do it the opposite way, give some explanation of certain things that will happen, like the consequences. So if you agree on the boundaries, we
Mm-hmm.
know that the children will not respect the boundaries all the times. Ask them, what is the consequence if they don't follow the boundaries? They will tell
Mm-hmm.
you. I know earlier on, Peggy, you said they will become complacent with knowing that if they don't do this, that's the consequence. Leave it to them. They know that's a
Mm-hmm.
consequence. Because if you want to change it without their knowledge, that will even bring more struggles with yourself as a parent,
Mm-hmm.
because the child will be like, you have just brought this up. And then it will lead to the to and fro argument, because the child knows that that is what you have agreed. But now you have gone against their wish or without consulting them. They might not use the same word, that you've gone against what you have agreed on and done your own thing.
Mm-hmm.
But then if you have that open communication, the child will be like, they might explain that, or like I have this with my son. So I'll call for him that come, and he'll be like, oh yes, mom, I'm coming. Give me a minute. Sometimes 1 hour. And I'm like, in school, you don't know 1 minute. How can 1 minute turn to an hour too? And then there was a time he was like, Mom, I'm on a game. I'm like, just pause that game. And he was like, Mom, I'm in a game. I can't pause the game. And I'm like, okay, just put it off if you can't pause. so, so, because for me, I couldn't understand that. How can you not pause a game? So it was after, because it was like I was having this argument that how can I call for you and you say you're coming in a minute, and then you come like 1 hour after I've called and called and called. I said, that game, can you not just pause the game? And then he took time and he explained it to me that, Mom, that game, you can't pause the game because it's like a competition. He's playing with other people. And if he leaves, he's he will just be killed.
Yeah.
So that's why he cannot pause it and he cannot leave the game. And I'm like, oh, so but prior to him explaining, I did not understand, because my in my head is that if you are playing a game and you need to pause or stop the game, you can just press the stop button. And so yeah, it's to have that open communication with the child. And sometimes, like, what I find is, if a child if you give the child the opportunity to teach
Mm-hmm.
you as a parent, children are
Yeah.
very, very proud when they feel that, oh, my mom, my dad doesn't know this, and I am the teacher, I am teaching you. Children like that. So give them that responsibility to come up with certain boundaries, and they will get,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. That's the same thing that I used to have. My son it used to bother me why you call them and they don't come. And at least now I know that that's what. But I always said, what if I had been an accident? Will you sit and wait until the game is finished before you come? So again, it's about putting them in that tight corner where they need to use their judgment. Sometimes when you call once, twice, and then the voice goes up and then the tone goes up, that's when they know that this is serious. I need to leave this thing. So
Because I
yeah.
mean, I would say there's been a number of times where when I call and call and call and I'm fed up of calling, I'll just turn off the internet, and straight away he'll come down. I'm like, why didn't you just come down in the first place? But then
Exactly.
he explained to me, he said, Mom, please don't turn off the internet. So he explained why I don't need to turn off the internet. And I'm like, okay, so we had a compromise. I'm like, okay,
Mhm.
now I understand. But imagine my frustration that I called for you once, twice, three times, and you answer all the time that I'll be there in a minute, but then you will not come. I say,
You don't
so
come.
when I call for you, call for you, call for you again, know that it's important. You need to come. So, yeah.
Absolutely. So the next reason how to set effective boundaries is we've already talked about how we need to explain to them why. I think we've explored on
Yeah.
that. Explain why we're setting those boundaries, because it's not just about setting boundaries. Because we're not setting those boundaries for us. We're setting it for them, and sometimes it's very, very important to explain. Just like in schools, when rules and regulation are set, they explain the reason why that rules and regulation is set. So that people understand why. So it's very important for us to be able to, as parents, put our kids to say, you know what, the reason why I'm setting this boundary because of A, B, C, D. Give them, give them all the benefits of it, and the even the consequences, so that they, in a way, can make an informed decision whenever. So in that way, it makes everybody to cooperate. It makes them to cooperate, on that boundary. The third one is we need to be a positive role model. This is another massive one. It's not just about setting the boundaries and say, hey, go, I've set it and go and slam like I used to do. I just go and slam it on the wall and put some tapes on the wall and then, all right, everybody needs to respect that. No, it's about also looking at how can we be a role model. Those same things that we're saying that they should do, are we able to do it? Are we doing it? Are we doing it? Most of the time, like I say, I'm always thinking about my dish. Now these days, I'm beginning to, when I eat, I don't just go and put the dirty dish in the sink. I say, go and wash it. No, I wash it myself, so that in that way, I'm telling them that, look, I have used my dish, I've washed it. That is what I'm expecting you to do. Most of the time on Saturdays, I get up, I will just start to clean. I clean my room and all of that, make sure it's all neat and tidy. I'm telling them that, you know what, that is a boundary that I've set. As I've done it, you guys also need to do it. So it's about setting those. And what about even the way we talk to people and even talk to ourselves? Boundaries is all about how we carry ourselves as parents, the way, what are the thoughts that we think, the language that comes out of our mouth, how we relate with people, maybe relate with our family members, relate with the community. These are all little things that the kids are modeling after us. They are watching. When you want to deal with a situation, how do you do it? Are you calm, collective, the way you're responding? Because whatever thing we're showing them, in a way, we're showing them, we're teaching them in a way boundaries, that they are copying these things from us. So again, it's about do our best to be role models of whatever thing we're setting for them.
Yeah, I
Mm,
think with this role model, as parents, majority of parents need to step up with
mhm,
themselves because parents, most parents are not modeling what they expect their children. Because, like, just a common one, a parent will talk ill about another parent or a family member or a family friend to the child.
mm,
What is that child learning from that conversation? Why is an adult involving a child in adult conversations? That is not modeling good example. And when you look at it, majority, I'll say majority because I've dealt with so many cases, and the pattern is just the same. It's just the
mm,
same. And they put expectation. And sometimes when they meet children from a family that has boundaries, they'll start comparing. Look at your friend. Look at how your friend is behaving, and then make your own child to feel worthless, which is not good.
yeah.
So just moving forward, I know we are running against time. One of the important ways that parents can involve children in setting boundaries is offer choices. Don't
Yeah.
just leave it open. Offer them limited choices. For instance, you can, depending on the age of the child, you can give them two choices, or if they are a bit older, you give them three choices, but limit the choices that you have to give them because you will be able to manage with those choices. Unlike if you give them five choices, and let's say you have five children or four children, and each of the children picks a different one, which one are you going to go for? So just be mindful of the choices that you give the children. Let it be limited so that you can manage with what you have. Like two, so that if the child, if say some children pick A and some children pick B, you know that, I
Mhm.
mean, there are two options. You can manage those two options. And one thing is, whatever you have put in place, you and your children, the boundaries that you have put in place, respect is very important.
Yeah.
Because in most of our communities, we say that as adults, we must be respected. But respect is reciprocal.
Yeah.
You, as a parent, you show how to respect your spouse, your wife, your husband, your friends, those in the community. The child is learning how to respect. And as a parent or as an adult, respect your child, respect the
Mm-hmm.
younger ones around you, and children will learn from that. But not the idea that I'm an adult and must be respected. No, and some people feel so entitled to respect.
Mm.
That's something people really need to work on. That respect is not earned, or
Mm-hmm.
how do they say it? Respect is not
Respect
demanded, it
is
is
earned.
earned. Yeah,
Yeah. Definitely, you're so spot on with that, Nelly. It's very, very important because sometimes when we don't even respect the children tend not to respect us as when, especially if they see us, our boundaries are weak. They will push and push and push and push, and then once they keep pushing and we keep letting go, that is where we lose our respect in such a way that when we're talking, they're not complying anymore. They're looking us as if we don't mean anything in their eyes. It's because maybe we- we've appeared weak, you know, before them. So that's why it's very important that in as much as some of the boundaries may hurt, because as parents, we've got that softer part of us that we set the boundaries, and then maybe we want to implement it. We feel like, oh, now I'm feeling sorry and all of that. When once we do it once, two, three times, that's it. We've lost it already. So if when we want to implement it, the kids they don't take it seriously anymore, and that's where we begin to appear weak in front of the children. So it's very, very important that we kind of stay firm, make them understand that we are the parents at the end of the day. Yes, maybe they may look taller and maybe intelligent and whatever than us. We are still the parents. So another thing that we want to talk about, whether it's very important, is we need to make those boundaries firm, but also warm, or rather warm, but also firm. Right? Boundaries, like you mentioned earlier on, should not be punitive. We're not setting those boundaries to punish that child. We are just setting guiding principles or guidelines for those children that can help them in their day-to-day activities. So we need to make the boundaries so that it can be welcoming, it can be warm but firm. Where this is where we will talk about when they violate it, we need to be firm in whatever approach that they have decided or you have decided, in line, in conjunction with them, to say that if you violate it, this is what is gonna follow.
yeah. And
One thing that we find it very difficult, or in fact most parents find it difficult, is that aspect of even taking the phones off our children. It's a massive one. We know that we've said that if they violate it, we're gonna take the phones away. But sometimes it's very some if sometimes what I usually do, the best time for me to take remote control of my son is when he's sleeping in the morning. First thing, when I wake up in the morning, when he's still asleep, I just walk into. If he did something the day before, I will just wait. In the morning, when he's still asleep, I just go in the room and I take that remote control, and that's it. That means the whole day he's not gonna play. So immediately he sees me coming, he just know that that day there's no game. But it's difficult because again, you feel like, this child, he's going to be loitering around. I'm bored. Did this, I need. So as a parent, sometimes it may be tempting to just say, you know what, let me just give it. But again, it's about reminding us, why did I take it in the first place? What is the reason why I took it in the first place? So that reason take priority over the emotions. So I don't know whether I want to say something before we focus on we go on the last one, which is on my list. On my list, I've got the last one, which is focus on teaching.
okay, so I think that aspect of guilt is massive. It's massive.
Mm,
But like you said, focus on the reason why you set that boundary in the first place.
mhm,
And know that no, no, full stop, is an answer, and it doesn't require explanation, because a lot of the time parents feel guilty to tell their child no, because they feel that no is negative. But it isn't, because if your child knows that they are not to do this, they are to do that, and they keep pushing, and you tell the child no, you don't have to feel guilty, but you need to be reminding yourself, because that little tiny voice will always be coming up that, oh, you are not a good mom because you've said no to your child. So you, as a parent, you need to be reminding yourself that no, it is for this and that reason that you put that boundary in the first place. And sometimes it will give your child the opportunity to get off, say, if it's the video games, to do something. Because that's what I found with my son. When I take his remote control, similar to yours, when he comes back from school, he will be playing in the back garden. And I'll be like, oh, so you could do this. So yeah, those boundaries doesn't have to be fixed. And again, we need to consider the ages, because we cannot say we have a family group of 3 children, and let's say the youngest is 2 and the oldest is like 16. We cannot set the same boundaries. Some can be similar, but they need to be different as well.
Yeah. Definitely, it has to be age appropriate.
Yeah,
And this is why sometimes you will see, even among the kids as well, they'll be like, "Man, mom, why are you letting that person, why are you?" But then they need
yeah,
to understand that, hey, he needs to be age appropriate. There are certain things that I may let go you of, but then there's certain, this other person I will not be able to, because it's all about, so this is where I've even gotten to a point where, even about the dishwashing, my son will say sometimes, why are you letting the elderly one, he's not washing anything. And sometimes I said to him, I say, you know what, I'm teaching you. It is about you. Think about the life skills that you're gonna take. Don't worry about the other person. It's all about focusing on you.
yeah,
Whatever thing you're learning now, you're doing it for yourself. You're not doing it for A or B.
yeah,
So again, like I said, sometimes there can be that conflict among themselves. Why are you being favorable and all of that? It's about explaining to each and every one of them the reasons why.
yeah,
We focus on boundaries, needs to be focused on teaching, not punishment. So
yeah,
again, boundaries are opportunities for teaching and guiding the behaviors of our children. It's not about punishing them. So again, as parents, sometimes we may get it right, sometimes we may set it and it will not work. you know don't kill yourself, don't punish yourself, don't feel like you're not doing well and all of that. Again, if it doesn't work, sometimes just change strategy. If one doesn't work, try and see what is the other, what can work. So again, we don't want to punish. It's not about punishing in a way. Whatever thing we're doing for them is just letting them know that you did A or B wrong. This is for that reason, this is why this thing is happening. You need to do A or B this way, because it will facilitate you, or for you to achieve this. It's just a way of letting them know that for you to achieve this purpose or this goal or this objective, you need to act this way. And it helps them even in their own goal setting as well, as they grow in the society. Yeah, so I don't know
yeah.
whether I have anything to add on that, Nelly.
Yeah, I think just looking at the way children were being parented generations back and is still ongoing now, parenting was focused on punishment, which
Mm,
there's a lot still going on now. But there's a lot of research that suggests that children who are being punished, they don't they don't live a fulfilled life. That is why there's a shift from punitive parenting to conscious parenting, where you set boundaries or consequences with an intention to correct the child rather than punish the child. Because sometimes a parent gets angry and bam is the child that is at the back end to receive everything. That's not being conscious in your parenting. So parents, we need to take a step back and be questioning ourselves, question ourselves on what decisions we are taking, what we want to do. Is it helpful? If that was done to you, how would you feel? If in the slightest way you realize that you will not like it, then don't do it for your child. Don't do it for your child. You can say no to a child, but then think of why did you say no to a child? Because the way we would interpret the no is two ways. No can be positive and no can be negative. So
Mhm.
it's for us to keep questioning ourselves and think of the intentions of doing whatever we are doing. So we are conscious in our parenting, conscious in the lives that we are living as well. So I think, I mean, we've gone far, far above, but I think
Yeah,
this
we've got,
was very, very important to talk about
yeah,
because we see, or from my point of view, I see a lot of parents having conflict with their children and children going wild because they don't have that boundary in place. We might look at it to be simple, but it's not just the physical boundaries that we put in place like we've talked about, but it's also the emotional side of it because it helps children with emotional regulation, delayed gratification, and things like that, and even the empathy. So it was very important. That's why we went over the time. Yeah. And thank you
yeah.
so much for watching. And if you have comments, please put your comments there and we will reply at some point.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, thank you so much, everybody. Like Nelly said, it was very, very important we talked about this boundary. And one thing that I just want to leave you with, as parents, everything is not going to work perfectly as we want. We may want the best for our children. We may want to set these boundaries. We may be doing everything that we're doing so nicely, in the hope of making sure that maybe the kids are watching and they are copying what we're doing. But again, it might not work. The child may decide to just go their own way. But one thing we just want to assure us as parents is that when these things happen, we just need to stay focused. We just need to stick on that thing that we've created. We need to remind ourselves, why did we create that boundary in the first place? And make sure we try and implement, we keep, even if that child goes and come back, we are on it. We said it's just to ask that child, remember why this boundaries was set. It was set for ABC. It's about bringing them back to the reason why it was set, so that we don't get pushed out, we don't get drift. We shouldn't be drifted away, because that is where we lose our value and we lose the respect, and then the children don't respect it. But then, even if it happens that they don't, do not feel guilty. Know that at the end of the day, you're still doing your best. You're still doing an amazing job as a parent, and at the end of the day, you are the mom, you are the dad, and these kids, they need to understand who is the boss here, So, yeah, so thank you so much for watching. And we're going to be coming back again in the next 2 weeks. If you have any topic that you want us to talk about, please do post it, because we're going to be reading your comment, and then me and Nelly can brainstorm on it. And like me and Nelly always say, sometimes we don't even plan about these things. We just come and then we just let it flow. We just say it raw as it is as parents, because believe you me or not, we all are facing our challenges in another way. As children, as parents, we're facing our individual challenges. So thank you so much for joining. And I don't know, Nelly, do you want to close tonight?
Yeah, thank you all so much. I think it was a I really enjoyed the session and I hope you did as well. You watching and Peggy, I'm sure you did enjoy because when we come here, we don't just come here to share our experiences that we are experts. No, we are in this field of learning. We just want to learn because the way you deal with things are very different from the way we deal with things. And we just want to learn because, hey, anyone who says, I've learned enough, is
Mm,
just the beginning of your failure. So let's just
yeah,
have that open mind and learn. And especially when we say we are parents or we are adults, children come with challenges, or the younger ones come with so many challenges that we need to develop to be like 5 steps ahead of them. So thank you so much, and we will look forward to seeing you in the next 2 weeks when we'll have our next session. If you have any topic that you want us to talk about, send us a message. If you want to join us on this panel, please contact us and we will get you on the panel on the next session. So thank you so much and enjoy the weekend, and for
Thank
us in the
you.
UK, the bank holiday. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.